Right now, in your city, clean water reaches your tap through a system with a single point of failure. Not 10, not 5. 1. A pump station loses power. A pipe cracks under pressure. A treatment chemical runs out. And within 72 hours in most American cities, the water stops. Most people have never thought about this, because the system has never made them think about it. But there's a group of people who thought about water every single day for centuries, not because they were paranoid, because the cost of not thinking about it was death, and what they built still works, right now, today, in places you wouldn't expect. Let's look at what modern water infrastructure actually is. Water reaches your home through a pressurized municipal system. That system depends on electric pumps, chemical treatment plants, centralized filtration facilities, and a distribution network that spans hundreds of miles of aging pipe. Every single one of those components is a dependency. And dependencies compound. When one fails, pressure drops across the entire network. When pressure drops, contamination enters the pipes. You can lose clean water not because the source failed, but because a valve failed 3 miles away. This isn't speculation. The EPA estimates that the United States has over 240,000 water main breaks per year. That's roughly 650 per day. Most are invisible to consumers, repaired before anyone notices, but they represent a system under constant stress. And that stress isn't decreasing. The American Society of Civil Engineers gives U.S. drinking water infrastructure a C- grade. Much of the pipe network was built in the 1950s and 60s, designed for a 50-year lifespan. That lifespan has already passed. Now consider what happens during an acute crisis. In 2021, Winter Storm Uri knocked out power across Texas. Within 48 hours, over 12 million people had no running water. Not because the water itself was gone, but because the pumps that moved it had no electricity. Stores sold out of bottled water within hours. The National Guard distributed water in parking lots. Some households went without for 3 weeks. In 2014, a chemical spill contaminated the water supply for 300,000 people in Charleston, West Virginia. The advisory lasted 9 days. 9 days where residents couldn't use tap water for drinking, cooking, or bathing. These aren't extreme edge cases. They happen regularly. They will happen again. Here's the part most people miss. The water filter you bought at the hardware store, the one with a replaceable cartridge and a plastic housing, requires pressurized water to function. No pressure, no filtration. It's not an independent system. It's a component of the same fragile infrastructure. So what do you actually have when the system goes down? That's the question medieval engineers were forced to answer permanently. And the answer they came up with has one specific property that no modern filter can claim. It improves over time. Not degrades, improves. We'll come back to exactly why that's possible. But first, the history. Between the 12th and 15th centuries, European towns faced a water crisis with no modern solution. Rivers carried disease. Wells ran dry in drought and flood cycles. Cities were growing faster than their water sources could handle. Monasteries, which functioned as the hospitals, research centers, and engineering hubs of their era, needed reliable clean water not just for drinking, but for brewing, medicinal preparation, and food preservation. The response wasn't to wait for a better technology. It was to build something with what existed. Slow sand filtration, documented in Cistercian monastery construction records, municipal water system blueprints in London, and military fortification engineering logs across France and the Holy Roman Empire. The concept wasn't invented in the Middle Ages. Versions of it appear in Sanskrit texts dating to 2000 BC. The Egyptians used layered sand and gravel to clarify Nile water. But medieval builders formalized it, gave it structure, scale, and documentation. And they built it because they understood something modern infrastructure systematically forgets. A system you cannot maintain yourself is a system you do not control. Here's the number that stops most people. A properly constructed and matured slow sand filter removes over 99% of biological contaminants from raw surface water. That figure comes from the World Health Organization, not from medieval records. From current WHO field documentation, We've known how to do this for 800 years. No electricity, no replacement parts, no chemical inputs, and most people alive today have never heard of it. So how does it actually work? A slow sand filter is a contained system, historically stone or brick, now often concrete or food-grade containers, filled with specific layers of material in a precise sequence. Raw water enters at the top. Slowly, gravity does the work. The first layer is coarse gravel, 5 to 10 centimeters. Large particles, debris, organic matter, stopped here. Below that, medium gravel, finer particulates removed. Then, the critical layer, a deep bed of fine sand, 60 to 90 centimeters. This is where the real mechanism lives. Within the top 2 to 5 centimeters of that sand bed, over the first 3 to 4 weeks of operation, a biological layer forms. Medieval operators observed it without understanding it. Modern microbiologists named it the Schmutzdecke, German for dirt cover. Inelegant name, extraordinary function. The Schmutzdecke is a living membrane, a dense community of bacteria, protozoa, fungi, and organic material that establishes itself naturally when water moves slowly enough through sand. It doesn't just filter mechanically, it consumes pathogens. Predatory protozoa actively hunt and destroy bacteria. Beneficial microbial communities outcompete harmful organisms for resources. Organic contaminants are broken down through biological metabolism. The result is water processed by a living system, not just physically strained. The physics are straightforward. Slow flow rate creates contact time. Contact time enables biological activity. Biological activity does the work. Speed is the enemy. The moment you push water through faster than the biology can process it, performance collapses. Medieval builders understood this intuitively. They didn't rush the water. Modern municipal filtration moved away from slow sand because volume demands made it impractical at city scale. That's a reasonable trade-off, but it's a trade-off, and it comes with a cost. There's one counterintuitive thing about this system that most modern descriptions get wrong, and if you miss it, you'll build something that looks correct but fails silently. We'll get there. But first, a moment from 1854 that made the case better than any lab study could. In 1854, cholera moved through London. 2 water companies served the same neighborhoods. One filtered, one didn't. The mortality gap between their customers was roughly 9 to 1. The filter held when it mattered most. Without electricity, without chemicals, without a single replacement part. The question is whether anything in your home would do the same. 3 scenarios, each one more common than people admit. Short-term failure, 3 to 10 days. A storm, a pipe break, a contamination advisory. Bottled water disappears from shelves in hours. A filter already running processes surface water continuously, no inputs required. The critical word is already. The biological layer takes 3 to 4 weeks to mature. You build this before the crisis, not during it. Extended grid down weeks or longer. A single 200-liter food-grade container processes enough water for a household daily. It scales with containers, not with electricity or replacement parts. 2 units in series increase both volume and quality. The infrastructure is whatever you build it to be. Everyday use, no crisis required. Combined with rain harvesting, this becomes a permanent supplemental source, independent of whatever the municipal system is doing. In regions with aging pipes or documented water quality issues, and there are more of those than most people realize, that independence has direct, practical value. Every day. The failure mode you need to know. The biological layer must remain submerged. Always. If the water level drops below the sand surface even briefly, the layer is exposed to air. It dies. The filter still runs. The water still looks clean, but biological processing is gone. Pathogen removal drops significantly, and there's no visible indication that anything changed. Medieval operators kept filters running continuously, even at minimal demand, for exactly this reason: a small overflow channel, constant flow. The system was never allowed to drain. That's the entire maintenance protocol. Keep it running. Keep it submerged. The biology does the rest and improves the longer you let it. A system that asks nothing of you teaches you nothing. Modern infrastructure is remarkable. It's also the reason most people have never thought once about where their water comes from or what happens when it stops. Slow sand filtration isn't fringe. The WHO uses it. European municipalities use it. It's been documented for 800 years. What it represents isn't technology. It's a principle. Build systems you understand. Maintain them yourself. That's not paranoia. That's competence.